Hi, thank you for joining Moving Into You with Stanwyck. Today is part two of a series of pandemic education and crises. And today I have with me a teacher, and I have Donna Callise with me. And Donna, will you introduce yourself and say a little something about your education and degrees and things?
Sure. Hey, Stan, thank you for having me. Yeah, I have been a teacher now for 37 years. I primarily teach students with special needs, although I have been in the regular classroom as a 7th, 8th grade math teacher. I did a 2-year stint as a building administrator, but that wasn't for me. So I went back to the classroom. Yeah, just finished up year 37.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which is kind of scary because my first students are like, in their mid 50s. So
Yeah.
yeah. I have my bachelor's degree in education. I have a master's degree in special education. I also have my MBA, and then I have enough graduate credits for the administration certification.
Wow.
Um,
Wonderful.
Pardon?
I said that's wonderful. That's,
And yeah, and I teach high school, and I'm a special, like I said, special education teacher. And I'm what my district refers to as a co-teacher. As I go to class with my students, I primarily work with students in Algebra 1, 2, and Geometry to provide their IEP service minutes and just anything else I can do to help in the classroom. And we always remind the students in the class, this is a unique thing. You have 2 teachers in the classroom. So anybody's hand goes up, I am more than happy to help.
that is wonderful. High school. That just, it takes a really special person, a teacher, to go into a high school environment. I mean, these are the kids that's right before you send them off into the world. So, yeah. So, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think it takes a pretty special teacher to teach kindergartners and first graders too. I subbed in a kindergarten classroom with one of my admin stints for like 10 minutes. And in that short amount of time, I did the color song wrong. I did the day of the week song wrong.
That's funny.
I didn't put people on their right squares. So, yeah.
Did the kids let you know?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Whereas in high school, to get a good morning out of them, depends on the day of the week, so.
That's true. What a lot of people don't know is that I did work in an elementary school for like 2 months. 2 months. But
Yeah, so you know of what I speak.
yeah. It was I helped out as a aide and in the lunchroom and getting things ready. So it's only for a few hours a day. But yeah, I had all the kids, all the ages from kindergarten to 6th grade because I was working in the cafeteria. And the kids are the good. It's just different for me, that is, from my old background and career than working with the kids. So, but it was enjoyable. The kids were fun, and I loved, having working with them. So let's move into the pandemic, talking about teaching during the pandemic. You have a lot of experience, a lot of background into how that goes. And so I'm going to just start off, and we're just going to talk about this conversation kind of about some things. First, I want to ask you about the responsiveness of the kids online, because I heard from many different parents, friends, family members, that their kids were like, oh, they wake up in the morning like, oh, I don't want to do this. Or, halfway through a study session, they're like, all right, I'm kind of like done with this, and we'll get up and walk away. I couldn't believe that part, but yeah. So high school is different. So how was yours?
Well, I would have to say that I did not have worldwide pandemic on my bingo card for my teaching career.
Oh,
This was a first, and I hope it lasts. When and I do want to preface everything I say that they are my opinions, Nothing in my school district, my school, anything like that, but they are my opinions, my insight, my experience.
Thank you.
But when it first, in March of 2020, we were at my district, we were just going into our spring break week in the middle of March. And kind of the joke was, well, do you think we'll be back and all that kind of stuff? And lo and behold, we were not. And that, we all kind of chuckled over that. But, when the governor with Superintendent Hoffman, the Arizona State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Kathy Hoffman, when they closed the schools, that was like, oh my God, what do we do now? And I would have to say, I cannot speak of, for any other districts, obviously, but I would have to say my district, we're flying the plane while we're building it. And I think at least finishing out the 2019-2020 school year, I think they did the best they could given the circumstances. We were able to get Zoom, and my district used Zoom. I know other districts use like WebEx, things like that. And they really softened the criteria up a little bit. But it was a unique experience. I would have to say the way things were set up, I don't think a lot of students, if it's by a certain date, I think it was mid-April, whatever grade a student had, that's what they had to finish the year out with. And so you had a lot of students, well, I've got an A in the class, I'll see ya, and stuff like that. But I get it too, because I'm sure there were a number of students who, if someone wasn't sick with COVID, maybe parents were getting laid off because of COVID, as we were going into lockdown. I know that my district had a scramble to find hotspots for students that didn't have internet access, or to print, out volumes and volumes of material for students to pick up, hard copies, things like that. And so, it was like everything was thrown into turmoil, when this hit. And but we made it to the end. I felt bad for our 2020 seniors. They didn't get their prom, they didn't get their graduation. And those are, when we look back at them, like it was no big deal. But at the time, that is,
It's huge.
especially your graduation. That's one of those milestones in life, that we like to document. This year we were able to have our graduation. It was socially distanced, for the ceremony. I could see it was a little more subdued, the final tossing of the hat with the mortar board. Nobody did it. It was all kind of
Not
like,
at all.
not at all. I think it was just for like, okay, are we done now? Should we leave? What should we do? And so anyway, when this first started, I think school districts, I know I was speaking for mine, I think we tried to do the best we could given the circumstances.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's, so going in then to the 2020-2021 school year, they had a pretty good blueprint. And my district, we started out on Zoom because, the numbers in Maricopa County were still pretty high. And we weaned, I think by about the middle of October, we had everybody back on campus that wanted to be on campus. We still kept Zoom meetings open for students that wanted to stay viral. So that would have been August, and all of August, most of September. And then, seniors were back on campus first, seeing they're the ones that, really, really, I really need this credit, graduate. And then, our juniors and our sophomores, and then our freshmen. So I think it's about the middle of October, we were back on campus for the first semester. And yeah, the responsiveness in Zoom was hit or miss. I had the experience of, once the lesson was presented, at least with the teachers I worked with, we're able to do what's called the breakout room, where, people can be put individually and the teachers can join them then to work one-on-one. So that is what I did then, just going down the roster and checking in with everybody. And I checked in with one young man, and I don't even remember his name, we'll call him Michael. And I said, Michael, can you turn your camera on for me, please? And he's like, wait a minute, I got to put my shirt on. So to be a lot of times to be in a student's bedroom with them was odd, to
You know
say the
what?
least.
Can I make a comment to that?
Uh-huh.
I hadn't thought about that. Say for instance that they did not want the camera on, and maybe they did not have to turn the camera on. Wow, you can have anybody sitting there doing your
Well,
lesson.
and
That's
that,
a different way of cheating. I mean,
yeah.
I hope I didn't give people ideas, but
Well, and that was, so I think, we knew that students were, when their cameras were off, they probably weren't there. I mean,
okay.
students, I mean, there were the handful of students who I'm sure were distracted by the family pet, when they were on Zoom, that they were distracted by Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, distracted by what they were reading on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, yin yang, whatever the kids are doing these days. And, that was reflective in grades and, coursework completion. Other students, they were like, can you, they would send in the chat, can you please come into my breakout room? And,
Wow.
absolutely,
I didn't know that could
but
be done.
yeah, but we knew full well that, this is going to be a unique year. So at least the teachers that I worked with, we did our assessments. We did like a little, in my algebra classes, we just did from the prior day's lesson, we did a little 4 or 5 point quiz instead of a unit test.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, in our district, my district was, pretty adamant and try to keep as little, the use of paper to a minimum, obviously, so we're not transmitting COVID on the paper. So we use an online program called Canvas, where teachers can upload assignments and worksheets and notes and test quizzes, so it's online. Anybody in college probably harken back to like Blackboard. I think people might be, familiar with that.
I heard of that. I used that once before, Blackboard. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's similar. I think it's like, probably Blackboard 4.0 or something like that. But so with my algebra classes, we would do a little mini quiz in class, open notes, open book. We would review the questions before it. With my geometry class, we gave the students, we have the quiz open for like 4 or 5 days, 2 attempts, we'll take the best score.
Oh, that's good.
Knowing full well that, I just finally got to the point, I'm like, use the Google, phone a friend, audience 50-50, and so I do worry about kind of what the expectations will be of students coming into class this year, with, a paper and pencil, and I've got to be to class on time. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was just, hopefully this is the one and only year that we'll have to go through this.
Well, you said a lot of things, and it covered. I'm gonna let you know it covered a lot of my questions that I had, and I'm thankful for that, because that made it easier for me. And I have to tell you, I'm cheating.
Uh-huh.
I'm on my phone, so in case the people who are watching or listening, they'll know that, hey, if I take a break and I'm looking away, if you're watching, you know that I'm cheating. So there it is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I mean, I, as far as like open notes, open book tests, I don't have a problem with that at all. You still have to take the time to look to where I'm going to find, how to work out this problem, or where I'm going to find the answer for that. My concern is, our number of students with failing grades at the end of the first semester was like astronomical, sadly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even the best students, you would say?
No, I don't think so. I think it's students that if it was the regular thing, they would have done fine. Your quote unquote average kind of student. But I
Yeah.
think being a little, being on Zoom for start, a little less structure, that sort of thing. I, made the comment to quite a number of parents that I work with. If I wanted to be an online teacher, I'd apply to an online program or an online school.
Right.
Um, I like to be in the classroom with students, and I like to work one-on-one or in small groups with students. The same, the flip side for the students and the parents. If the student would prefer to get his or her education via online, like my school district offers an online program. I know other districts offer online programming. There's, the Primavera, K-12, all that kind of stuff out there. But they are not there because they don't learn well like that, which is why they're in the classroom. And so I think our freshmen, we usually have like a day freshman orientation where we have our upper classmen, our mentors,
Mm-hmm.
and we take, any freshman that wants to participate in this activity. It's a day-long event, and they meet their mentors, they meet their new classmates. They're given an opportunity to get a tour of the campus,
Oh,
you
that's
know, in,
good.
it's important to know where the cafeteria is on the first day, or, at some point, if you get sick, where the nurse's office is, or if mom or dad are picking you up early, let's say for a doctor's appointment, where do I go
Where do you go?
to get myself checked out? That sort of thing. And a chance to get to meet teachers before, everybody's thrown in into the classroom on the first day. And so our freshmen, we weren't able to have that this year. And I could see kind of the difference from what I recall from the year prior there, where, the year prior when our freshmen were able to have their orientation just a little bit more at ease, on the first day of school sort of
Yes.
thing. Whereas when we were back on campus fully, the freshmen, they didn't know where the buildings were. If I have class in the A building or the C building, I don't know where that is. I don't know where my PE class is, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not to mention that we had, arrows, only one way, and so you can only go this way in the hallway and up these stairs and down those
Wow.
stairs. And, obviously to keep the possibility of infection low. So, the freshmen, they had a little bit of a struggle.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me ask you. One thing is that you brought up with the parents and talking to the parents. Were you approached by the parents about the emotional feeling that the students had and with their health? Because it's a little bit different, whereas if they were in school, at the beginning of like the pandemic, if they were in school, they could go to a nurse's office, they could do a lot of different things if they needed like time out, just a break. But
Right.
they are at home with everything that goes on, usually at home. Did you have any parents reach out to you about things that they could possibly do?
Well, when it all started, back in March, April of 2020, my district made a very strong point of offering social emotional well-being opportunities via Zoom, via a listing of counselors. I know our guidance counselors were doing Zoom meetings all the time, working with parents and students.
Yeah.
So my district did make a point of the social emotional well-being. As a matter of fact, at the end of the 2020 school year, part of the way they set up the schedule was, if I recall, I don't think we had school on Friday. The students didn't, maybe those last, I don't know, 7 or 8 Fridays. And that was supposed to be for take time for yourself. make sure everybody's in your family is okay, and spend time with, your loved ones, kind of a day. Teachers, we still worked, preparing our lessons and getting ready for following week. But if memory serves, and please don't quote me on this,
I won't.
but I think, and just really, really, really push that. It's on our district's website. There were links for social emotional. Our school website had links. And parents did reach out too. Yeah, parents did reach out. And quite honestly, one of the big differences I noticed is the number of parents that reached out because of their child's struggle in school, for like a parent teacher meeting, and just, what kind of ideas can we come up with to help their child,
Wow.
do a little bit better. So, usually for me, in my aspect of what I do, kind of the unique sort of thing that I do, students with, it's called an IEP, but it stands for Individual Educational Program. Every student by federal law, IEP, but any student identified with special needs by federal law has to have an IEP, which is reviewed annually. And, so usually that's my communication with parents, just a little updates about how their child is doing with their IEP goals, grades, that sort of thing. And then our IEP meeting, getting parent input for that and meeting and going over that. But this time, I probably had about 6 or 7 parents reach out. Can we just meet and talk about what's going on and how, we can get my son or daughter back on track? And that was, for me, we still did have our parent teacher conferences. But again, those were done via, they were virtual. And I had, I want to say from when we started till we ended, I was pretty booked, which for high school, that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Even when we have our actual regular in-person parent-teacher conferences, there's just a handful of parents that participate. But this time I was pretty booked, and I think everyone I spoke to, they were pretty booked too.
Pretty busy, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that those programs at your district provided those programs for the kids, and I'm sure that the parents are there, taking part of it to, as much as they could learn about their kids, educational and health needs for that time period.
And like I mentioned earlier too, students, if they didn't have the internet at home, my district got them hotspots. We also opened up in some of the schools, even before everybody was back on campus, the cafeterias, and they were monitored then by, some of the security personnel or paraeducators on campus, where they could come on to the school cafeteria, but, socially distance again, and they could then log in with, their equipment at school. My district, at our high school level, all 5 of my high schools, every student is issued an iPad. And
that's really good. Wow. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. When they work.
When the students work or the iPads work?
No, when the iPads work, or it's like, I can't get it to link to the internet, and those sort of things. But so students at least could bring their school issued iPad to campus and use the internet that route too, if they didn't have the internet at home.
Your district sounds like it's really awesome. When we talked a few months ago, you got approval to do this interview with me, and I want to say thank you for doing that. There is one special person that you talked to when you got your approval. Is it okay to say who that is? Or do you want to say who that is?
It's just our director of communications with the district. I reached out to her. I first spoke with one of my building administrators, and she was like, "Oh, that's cool. Sure, I don't care. Oh, but maybe you should reach out to," and their name slips me because I don't deal with her very often. But I reached out to her, and she's like, "Yeah, you may do this. Just remember, your opinions are your own." And I'm like, "Of course they are."
And always.
Always. Yes. Yeah.
So it looks like really that we covered a lot of the questions that I have for you. I appreciate. I like to take time when my interviewees like yourself, and I say it's more of a conversation that we're having. Um, I like when you can just upfront and give our listeners and our viewers all the information that they need, just like right away. So I try to quiet myself during those time periods because it's important what you want to say and what you need to get out, because that's what they want to hear. And I'm sure my listeners and viewers would agree with that more than they're hearing me. So I think that's wonderful. Let me ask you, are there any additional things that you want to bring to the for our listeners and viewers to know? Let's see. Go ahead.
I also did summer school, and that was pretty much back to normal. The only, masks were required by all personnel and students during the last school year. And I didn't know that there were, the possibility of putting that much hand sanitizer around. But I think masks will be optional. As a matter of fact, I think, Governor Ducey here in Arizona signed a law saying that, a district can't make people wear masks.
Oh, really? Huh.
I think, don't quote me on that, but I think as I was leaving this school year, it came down from the district office that masks would be optional for the summer school program. The district that I taught summer school in with, though, is a different district, and masks were required, though, inside. We could take our masks off outside, but had a blast with the kids. They're incoming 8th graders, and they'll be 9th graders next year. So, kind of coming full circle a little bit, they've gotten that experience. And I know that we have our freshman orientation day scheduled for this upcoming school year. And, I just looking forward to things kind of getting back to normal.
We hope.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I going to say? I was just going to say something. Go ahead. I'll think here. If you have something, Stan, tack on there.
Hey, we all go through that, right?
Yes.
But yeah, you pretty much answered a lot of questions because I sent you a list, and you pretty much went through everything. I can't say how much I appreciate that. I'm looking at our time. We're doing really good on time, but I'm looking at it, and I just wanted to ask you a little bit more about the summer school program.
Oh, sure.
Was there overabundance of kids in summer school?
Okay. The summer school program that I teach with, I've been doing it, I don't know, 17-ish years. And the point of it is to keep the classroom size small. It's two teachers. And because, like I said, it's 8th graders who they're the incoming 9th graders. And so they do want the students to feel, that they got the most out of it. So it, in the past, was a math program. But they've kind of rolled into it now, some ELA stuff too, English language arts. And that was very interesting because, I have my experience with the math stuff, so I had to step back and let my teaching partner do the English stuff. But so they purposely want to keep the student teacher ratio low. So the district has been doing this for years. They pay, mightily to hire teachers to keep the classroom size small.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
As far as my regular school, I don't know how many students took advantage of summer school offerings, other than I know for students with special needs, I think we had a pretty good showing. I know my department chairperson, she teaches that, she facilitates that, and she's very proud of the number of students that came in and the number that recouped missed credits. So that's good. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I know, oh, I know what I wanted to say. I know, and not just for my district, but I think statewide, there were a number of, I think it's statewide, 10,000, something like that.
Wow.
Students that withdrew from like the physical brick and mortar school, and nobody really knows where they went. They didn't follow up with going to an online program. So that's one thing that is going to hurt school districts is,
10,000?
funding is based off of students, oh boy, like they call it the 100-day count or something in Arizona. And again, I could be way, way off on this.
That's okay. I heard about that.
Yeah, but that, from the prior year, so the 100-day from the 2020-21 school year will influence funding for the following year. And
Oh,
I think that's how it works in Arizona.
mhm.
And so by having lost, quite a number of students, whether they moved out of state, again, people losing jobs, losing their home, maybe having to go live with, parents in another state, or, aunts and uncles in another state, things like that. But yeah, that has been a little worrisome for public school districts. The number of students that like just disappeared.
Wow,
So,
that's a lot. You know what, through all of this, with this, with part one of the series I've done so far, and your part two, I
mhm,
never thought about that. Never thought about, I mean, I talked about people moving away, going to different places, but I never thought about the funding that could be lost with the schools. And so
right.
I
And
think you bring that point up.
yeah, and that then, determines, well, there's only X amount of dollars. I mean, public education, it is a finite pot, that we
Mhm.
draw upon.
It
Um,
is.
and so if districts were told, this is what your funding is going to be, this is only how many teachers you can hire. So, we could end up, with classrooms with 40, 45 students
I hope that doesn't happen.
more, um, for the next school year. So,
Yeah, I hope it doesn't end up that way, and that everything is taken into consideration when they look at the numbers with the pandemic in mind. There has to be
yeah,
a balance, a real balance there. So I'm hoping that this coming school year, having grandkids that are in school myself, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn out like that. And so, but I want to go back and thank you though for just being an awesome teacher
why,
and
thank you.
an awesome person. I want to
Why,
say
thank
that
you.
first, and for coming in to have the interview with me. And like right now, I think we are kind of coming into the fork in our road. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I just thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my experience, my opinion-ish. But and again, hopefully things everywhere are getting back to normal. I actually went into Costco for the first time without a mask on today, feeling
Oh.
good about that. Yes. So,
It's kind of cool that, when you can go somewhere without a mask, it's not really
yeah,
crowded. Yeah, we did a dinner the other night like that. So it's kind of cool.
yeah.
So,
Well, and that I know it wasn't just my district, but others too offered, were able to procure vaccinations, and we did have a vaccination clinic for any staff member that wanted. I think it was reported that for my district, about 1,200 people took advantage of that.
oh, that's great.
Bus driver, cafeteria worker,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
wonderful.
you
Yeah.
know, teachers, admin, everybody, is open to everybody. And like I said, I know my district was not the only one that was able to provide that to staff. So, it takes a village, and everybody's got to pitch in and all that
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that is good. And I'm happy for you and your students. And I wish everybody all the luck this coming school year, starting, I think, in August for most students. And so that's
My district, we start August, our first day of school is August 2nd.
already. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's what, a
So,
month away.
it's July 1st, so you know how depressed I am.
But yeah, look at that smile. You're not that depressed. So again, thank you for coming on to Moving Into You with Stanwyck. And I want to tell you, like I tell all my guests and for the listeners and the viewers out there, Donna, keep moving in your journey. And thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.